What does the MMA phase with PFL look like for Francis? What are you guys looking at? I know I believe I heard him say that perhaps he could get back in a ring or a cage in March. What is the plan for Francis?
Yeah, so in parallel with boxing, he'll box for sure. He's working through those details with his team. But in 2024, he'll absolutely make his debut in with the PFL, and he'll return to the cage in MMA. And we're putting that fight together as we speak. And so we're excited about it. And then in addition to that, so the PFL, we launch our pay-per-view division next year. We'll do it with Francis. Obviously, Jake Paul is on the pay-per-view Super Fights division roster as well. And then going back to Francis, beyond his path and his continued path as an elite athlete, Francis is the chairman of PFL Africa. So Francis has had an amazing journey with a lot of adversity to get to Europe to take on MMA, right, and then make it to the UFC, get to the top. And now, fans and people see what he's doing. He's as passionate as advancing and growing the sport overall globally, but in particular on the continent. And we have that platform to do it together so that great athletes and fighters on the continent don't have to leave the continent to compete on major media platforms, get paid. So we're really focused on, putting resources in the ecosystem of MMA on the continent, developing the talent, launching that league, and creating pathways for those fighters to become regional champions in PFL Africa. These athletes will be able to compete against top competition from different countries on major media platforms distributed globally, get paid as professionals, and then pathway to earn their spot as regional champions, and then opportunity to get to PFL Global, our global season, and for potentially some of those fighters, if we can find a fighter at the Francis level over time, they can make their way to the pay-per-view division. That's what we're building at the PFL. I mean, we'll have 6 regional leagues up and running within the next 3 years.
Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome, and obviously incredibly important. Peter, when you think about possible fights, is there one or two really big fights out there that you say, hey, I'd love to make that fight for Francis?
Well, listen, Francis wants John Jones, and John Jones wants Francis. Francis wants Stipe. Stipe wants Francis. And, there's a conversation going on with Deontay Wilder, whether it's boxing, whether it's modified rules. That could be exciting. And so that's a real consideration. Again,
would you ever talk to Dana White? And I know this is something that seemingly, at least to my knowledge, has not been on the table previously for the UFC. Would you go to Dana, Peter, and try and figure something out where you could put on a cross promotion fight, Francis, John Jones? I mean, maybe one of the biggest combat sporting events of all time.
It would be. And of course, we're all about, once again, advancing, growing the sport, giving the fans the fights that they want to see. And it would be epic. And we're certainly supportive of it. And if the UFC were ever to want to take that on, we're keen to do it. And in deference to, making it an iconic moment in the sport, between these athletes. So while their fighters are exclusive to UFC, our fighters are exclusive to the PFL. We come from a different space and have a different lens. And as a, what I would say, a challenger brand or a disruptor, we're all about creating new rules, creating new opportunities.
Well, and I love the idea of the something with Deontay Wilder. I mean, how fun would that be? You talk about the guy who was thought of as the hardest puncher in the ring versus obviously. I mean, that would seemingly be a really fun matchup to watch.
Yeah, it would be huge, and I think modified rules, that whole concept. Yeah. So some great combat sport athletes going at it, and then there could be different levels of modified rules for the type of athletes that we're throwing down. You'll see us do a lot of that in our pay-per-view events with crossover fighters.
Yeah, I think I discounted that, Peter. Even as I was watching Francis on Saturday, even in the clinch, it just his strength looked different, and it looked like that really, literally weighed on Tyson. When when you normally watch him kind of lean on people and tire them out, it did seem like in that clinch that bothered him, at least the way I saw it. So yeah, this is a lot of exciting stuff here. Anything before I let you go that you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, we'll have next year, we'll have 30 events, the PFL. So, as the co-leader in the sport, we're really focused on giving athletes the opportunity, different parts of the world at different stages of their career. It's really an opportunity to compete because most athletes around the world, in MMA, hope is their strategy.
Yeah.
I hope they get discovered and finding, these
Right.
regional
Yeah.
organizations around the world. We're grateful for them, but they're not well positioned or capitalized to support the athlete's journey the way we can. So we're really focused on, what are we solving for the athletes first, and then what we're solving for media companies, and then ultimately fans.